All right, thank you, Mike.
News team, assemble!
It's time for the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Featuring site publishers Carey Murdoch and Josh McQuistion, along with videographer Eddie Radosevich. It's the Unofficial 40 on Soonerscoop.com.
All right, we are back, and the Sooners, ladies and gentlemen, are in the college football playoff. Well, at least for this week, they are. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Unofficial 40. I'm your host, Carey Murdoch, alongside Josh McQuistion and Eddie Radosevich. And gentlemen, welcome to another edition, a long-awaited edition. I think people are going to lose their minds if we didn't come out with another podcast.
Well, yeah, I would think so. It's a big deal.
The rankings have come out. I see that the Eddie has sent out the bat signal that the podcast is going.
Oh, yeah, you got to let the people know.
Puts incredible pressure on me to get it up as fast as possible.
Well, I mean, I don't think we'd want to record it and then not put it up.
I finally killed my office chair, so it's done.
It's a different look from this side of the from this side of the table.
Without me being in the big King
chair.
James throne that
Maybe,
I have.
You know what we should do? We should start a Venmo for you, and we could get you a new chair.
Everybody is so like that's become like the big kind of joke now. Is like the Venmo thing. It's like Venmo me.
It's because people will do it. Like,
has anybody ever Venmo'd you anything just for saying Venmo me?
Oh no. But
because you do it all the time.
Yeah, but I never add my Venmo. Maybe I need to start adding my Venmo handle, and people will. But like people have had signs at game day before that like Venmo me beer money or whatever.
Yeah, I remember that one dude.
He'll get like I thought that guy got like $150, $200.
Yeah, I remember.
That's a full night.
That was the first time I ever heard of Venmo.
Oh,
like
really?
At college game day.
I mean,
I didn't know what it was.
That's more than just beer money.
Rivals was like my original Venmo. That's what this job started for. You know, I told Krabby when I started, I was like, "This is my beer money. This is how that paid for my fun on the weekends."
You probably needed a lot of beer.
Well, you have to
a
use
large
beer.
man.
You can't say
not like fat.
You can't say whiskey money. Because at like 21, if you say whiskey money, you have a drinking problem.
Josh is kind of like a mini Hannes Pola. Like you have a large head and a large body.
I could see that actually.
Maybe are you from Finland? Is the McQueen? No, you're from Scotland.
Scotland for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and a sad story that Lainey will, in about 15 years will hate me for sharing. She got a scooter for Christmas and got a helmet to go with it. The helmet didn't fit. Oh. And Lainey was this was last Christmas, and she'd have been about 2.5 at that point. And it was a 3 to 5 helmet, and she didn't fit into it. And so
she needed a big kid helmet.
So we went, literally, this is, again, I told you guys, poor parenting is a model of mine. I just now have replaced it in late November. It took me almost 11 months to get this girl a helmet. Yeah. So it's been sitting in the back of my truck with the receipt for all that time. Like, I'm going to take it back. So finally she and I went, I think a week ago today, actually. Went and got it, and she can only wear the 5 to 8 helmet. Like 8-year-old kids like helmets. It's not. She has a big dome. She got the McQuistion dome for sure.
When you were playing football in high school, did they have to like special order your helmet?
Yeah, they had to take him up to the high school to get the helmet. We had a couple kids like that.
Do you guys remember? Like I always felt like I needed to wear the John Olerud helmet. Like I was going to have to wear that big thing, because his was always different and weird from everybody else's. Like I was going to have to wear that one because it wasn't going to fit.
He wore the batter's circle helmet on first base.
Exactly.
A man before his time.
I see it now, and I'm so jealous. Like Eddie, and I know you go to a ton of games, and you're on the sidelines and stuff too. But those zip pulls they have now for the chin straps and stuff.
Oh yeah.
How awesome would that be? Why wasn't there when we were kids? Like we had to do the full like bike helmet, chin strap guards that were just crap. but they get to they're like built into the helmets now. They're little zip tie straps.
You know, and now that you say that, I've seen it at high school games. I don't know if I've seen it at college games.
Oh, really? I just assumed.
I don't know.
Didn't even think about
I
it.
haven't even thought about it.
Yeah,
now.
I don't notice it.
I think they just have the.
Maybe they don't do it. Yeah, they don't do it in college just because it doesn't hold up as much. Probably.
Yeah, they're like.
They're like, this is for children.
It's a really shitty type product or whatever in high school.
That's not a real helmet. Okay, I think we have a new idiot on top of Idiot Mountain after this last week.
Yeah,
Joey
I think
Galloway
so.
has been fine. Like, I don't know if you've shamed him into being normal.
I think he's checking his messages. I think he checks his mentions.
He realizes that the OU fans are just killing him.
Yes.
Now, nose picker McFarland, he's still an idiot.
Yeah, but it's almost like, I mean, Booger McFarland, it is what it is. You kind of expect it from him. It's like, I don't really expect him to have a real strong take on anything because I just don't think he's a very smart person to begin with.
I think Jesse Palmer is too busy with his holiday baking championships to do too much football.
Jesse Palmer's real big into the holidays, I bet.
Is he even? Isn't he on a Thursday night broadcast or something though? Isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Well, him and Joey Galloway.
Still? I know he used to.
Yeah, I think they took him off. I think he's in studio on Thursday nights with Joey Galloway, and they do like the halftime show of the ESPN game or whatever.
Well, we have the new idiot on top of Idiot Mountain, and it is Tommy Tubberville. After watching him do the OSU Iowa State game last week, which was an abomination.
What a joy that crew was. Him and Mike Patrick, honestly, they wheel him out of the old folks home, I bet. Like, all right, Mike, we got to go do another game today.
He has fallen so far downhill.
It's really bad. He used to be great.
He used to do, what was it, Monday Night Football?
Oh, I don't know.
Or was it?
I always was familiar with him with like that Saturday night ESPN SEC game.
He and Theismann did Monday Night Football together.
Wow.
Back in the day.
See, I was just thinking like the last 10 years when he was doing.
But then he became, for a while he was the number one part of the number one crew in college football too. But like now, yeah, I think he must not ever watch any football and just shows up and does whatever game they tell him to.
Just play spades all week with Rick and Roger.
But Tommy Tuberville, we all know he was at Texas Tech. He voluntarily quit to go to Cincinnati because he was getting his ass handed to him in the Big 12. And here's some audio. Now, this is OSU driving down. They're at the goal line. They're at the 1 yard line, I think. And they hand the ball off to J.D. King, and he doesn't make it in the end zone. On the next play, they hand it off to Justice Hill, and he barrels his way into the end zone. But, like, Tommy Tuberville took every opportunity he could to grind his axe against the Big 12 Conference. Here's an example.
And they stop him again, this time for a loss of a yard for J.D. King.
This is where both teams excel on defense, is in the red zone, because they're not an attacking offensive line. They don't get any push. They're soft. They're finesse. And they get manhandled by the defensive line on the goal line, both teams. And usually most teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, there's a guy named David Montgomery on that field and a guy named Justice Hill that were fantastic runners in that game. And that Oklahoma State offensive line has gotten pretty good here at the end of the season.
This is after, like, in the first or second quarter, early in the game, he said, this is one of the better Oklahoma State offensive lines they've had in years.
It's like he figured, oh, wait, I can't say positive things about the Big 12. And so the game is getting ready to end, and it's over. A.J. Green intercepts the ball in the end zone. Mind you, this is a game where Marcel Aitman has become one of the biggest weapons in college football at throwing the fade ball to him in the end zone in short yardage, 2-point conversion, whatever. He's unbelievable. He's become an unbelievable player. And here is Doofus's take on this. I was trying to think of a word to call him. I should have used the worst one, dumbass.
Yeah.
Here's dumbass's take.
We can edit that out.
I'm not editing. We're getting this thing up.
Oh, really?
Well, Eddie, calm.
Green light.
Can we just take it easy on the F-bombs today? I want to get this podcast out there.
We can do that as long as, yeah, we can do that.
Unless you get really triggered.
Yeah, we can do that.
If it's really worth it, I'll edit it, okay? So, Tubberville, the last play of the game, Iowa State's right. They have like 27 seconds left. They got Zeb Nolan, who's having a fantastic game throwing the ball. They've got Alan Lazard on their team, too, by the way. But they throw it to the Murdoch guy, which is a terrible person to throw a football to in a crucial situation. So here's Tommy Tubberville getting his last little shots in as the game ends.
It's just unfortunate it would end this way, all on the 3-yard line. That's how these Big 12 teams live and die off the pass.
What a moron there! I said,
got him. He is a moron though. I mean, that was he said some of the dumbest stuff during the game. Just as far like he's one of those guys too that just listening to him, it kind of pisses you off because it doesn't sound like he's even that excited to be there. So I don't know. It's just like
it was a great game too.
Yeah,
like, that totally got me jacked up to go to the OU game.
Yeah,
and because I was like, man, I want to go see some football in person now. But like, it was such a great game to watch. You never would have known it with those two idiots in the booth.
I don't know. I also sat there wondering, how did this man recruit anybody? Like, how did he get players to come play for him? I mean, at Auburn, he probably just paid the kids, but I don't. It just didn't make sense to me. I mean, do you hate him as much as us, Josh?
The thing, and Carey, that quote that you just did, and for the people that don't realize it, he's talking about the passing game, and they don't live with the running game. He had literally just watched a game where two backs went over 100 yards and had 3 rushing touchdowns. Shut the hell up. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And we all know the Big 12 throws the ball, but it's this idea that it's still the Mike Leach Big 12. There are a lot of good backs in the Big 12, and he just saw probably 1 and 2. And
by the way, everybody killing OU last week for their defense, that Oklahoma State offense is one of the top 2 offenses in the entire country.
Well, I'm sure we can get into it more, but it doesn't get any better than the narrative that TCU doesn't play defense anymore. And that was thrown out, and that might be the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Who was that? I heard it too, Eddie.
Well, it was on, I think it was on College Football.
McFarland?
It was one of those guys, and then I think that somebody wrote an article just talking about, I think he gave him shame about TCU not playing any defense. And it's like, there's no, I mean, he said, that guy usually says dumb shit anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
The best thing about Tubberville happened after the game, though.
Yes.
Because they do an instant analysis thing, and they had him do it, and somebody, the mic was hot. And see, we don't have to bleep it out, but this was what happened after the game with Tommy Tubberville, kind of trying to record this little last segment that doesn't want to play on my computer right now.
This is the part that it kind of sucks because this is the Tommy Tubberville that I think might be kind of a cool guy if you're sitting around drinking at a bar. I bet Tommy Tubberville has gone and used the Hugh Freeze line a couple times before. He seems like that type of guy.
What the stripper line or the hooker line or
yeah? I bet he's had.
line?
I bet Tommy Tubberville has had his fair share of hookers.
Okay, here's Tommy Tubberville.
We always knock this out the first time. Yeah. Yeah, right. Come on, let's go. Exciting game today here in Ames, Iowa. Oklahoma State coming out on top, basically on the last play of the game with an interception by a defense that bent but didn't break. Iowa State played very well. 91 points scored total, over 1,000 yards offense. That's a typical Big 12 game. 20 seniors from Iowa State, a dream season coming to an end. Oklahoma State keeping their chances alive. Mike's got to do it by himself now. That's no fair. Y'all make me do this shit.
I don't even take a dump by myself, right?
That's the best part.
This is over the air, too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, dickhead. Slappy.
Oh, jeez.
All right, I think that's
Mike
good. They talk
Patrick's
about
just happy to be here.
These damn folks stayed here to the end.
They
So.
talk about their escort out, and now he's a Barney Fife and all this stuff, which I'm sure was nice. That cop when he got home and realized, they were talking shit on me.
Yeah, these guys didn't really like me. No wonder they didn't tip me.
So, yeah, just what a moron.
He's an idiot. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think I said earlier, or during the broadcast on Saturday, I wouldn't put him in charge of a neighborhood bake sale. That's how big of an idiot I think Tommy Tubberville is.
They wanted him in Tech. They wanted the dressed up. I remember talking to Chris Level about this. What, Josh, do you remember kind of when he took over, like they didn't sign anybody, did they? Like they had a horrible time signing recruits.
I mean, it's always tough at Tech. I mean, you guys, I've never been to Lubbock. You guys have been multiple times. I mean, that's not an easy sell. But at the same time, like, yeah, I think because all the things that while he was at Ole Miss and, doing some of the things he was doing, the stuff that resonated with the media, the riverboat gambler and all that crap, kids don't care about that. Like they're not like, oh, he'll go for it on 4th down and they'll go 8-4. Like they don't give a shit. So I think that was always going to be the deal. Is like Tubberville had this reputation of this big personality, but he wasn't. He just was a guy that had a propensity to go for it in a weird situation. And it's funny because you listen to him and it's not who he is. Like he's so boring on air.
By the way, he was. But then as a coach,
he was fairly enjoyable to watch because you knew he would, kind of take the chances that maybe others wouldn't.
He was more excited in that instant analysis clip than he was during the game because he knew he was getting out of there. Just total loser. All right, so the college football rankings come out. Oklahoma moves up to number 4. Josh, I'll just throw this out first to you. What surprised you most about what you saw in the rankings? And you guys know that I've kind of gone off on some things already.
I am surprised that Oklahoma stayed behind Clemson. I thought Miami would jump them. I don't have a huge problem with that.
You said Oklahoma State. Oklahoma, you mean?
I said Oklahoma stayed.
Oh, stayed. Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah. No, I just thought that with the win over TCU, kind of answering that bell, and the way that Oklahoma played in that game, people, like everybody's talking about the second half, and it's kind of ignored that Oklahoma, almost without question, played its best half of football in that first half. From the offensive, defensive, special teams, they dominated that game. And I don't know that got enough credit, and I keep looking at what Clemson's getting credit for. I mean, what has Clemson done? And I keep seeing these list of quality wins, and I was talking to someone today, and I guess I'd kind of missed this, that any quality win is a win over a team that is above 500. What the hell is that? Like, that's a quality win?
Yeah, somebody had pointed out there was 3 6-4 teams that Clemson was getting credit for, and Oklahoma had 3 wins over 3 5-5 teams. Like, you're gonna use that as your metric?
Well, I mean, name me the 6-4 team that Clemson beat that Kansas State couldn't play with, or that's just crazy, and I don't understand it because I don't ever understand when we're talking about the top 4 teams in the country, they should be beating number 20 to number 25 fairly. I don't want to say easily, but they should be handling those games. To me, it's the top 15. That's when you get credit for something. That matters to me. But, I mean, 16 to 25, like Oklahoma, most years that's going to be West Virginia or Kansas State. Oklahoma should win that game. Oklahoma at home should win that game pretty comfortably. And I keep looking at Clemson like they snuck by Wake Forest. Okay, like the Auburn win. People keep talking about, well, Kelly Bryant went out against a Syracuse. Okay, that's fine. The Auburn, like nobody watching that Auburn team feels like it's the Auburn team you're watching now. So why does that stick not move? Like you get credit for what Clemson wasn't that night against Syracuse, but you ignore what Auburn wasn't that night. They were an offense that was still completely out of whack. Didn't have Carey on Johnson, who went nuts against Georgia last weekend. Like you can just go down the list, but Clemson gets credit for that, while Oklahoma doesn't get any for TCU, who's now number 12, drops tremendously over losing a road game to a top 5 team, while Georgia drops the same amount of spots, but is still completely in control of their destiny.
It was I could have even lived with the way that the rankings came out last night. I think that Clemson, okay, whatever. Miami, I understand it. They haven't lost a game. Bama's Bama. OU, I thought it's decent that they're 4th. I didn't have any problem with that. But when Kirby Hocutt opened his mouth last night and started sounding like a dumbass for the reasons that they put Clemson above Oklahoma, that really triggered me.
He said, and there's the quote, "It's the loss to Iowa State that did not allow Oklahoma to rank higher this week."
Which, okay, that's fine.
That's fine, but you're acting like Iowa State wasn't in control of the Big 12 3 days ago.
Right.
They didn't lose to a bunch of jackasses. They lost to one of the biggest stories in college football this year, Iowa State. And Iowa State lost their starting quarterback in that game against OSU. And Iowa State went to overtime with Iowa, who kicked the shit out of Ohio State.
That is too much factual concepts there, Carey. I don't think that.
God, I just it pisses me off so much.
Kirby Hocutt did himself no favors last night, and it happens every year. It seems like they get the guy on ESPN and he talks about their decision making, and then
he should come out in a goddamn gimp suit because he is their bitch. A ball gag and a gimp suit when he does his ESPN interview. Because he does not have a mind of his own.
It's apparently not. Apparently not. And then the whole thing with the injury situation, weren't they getting beat when he got out? He went out anyways?
They were up
I thought they were down. I thought they were down 17-14.
Yeah, 17-14
and then
they were down.
For him to act like, he
was playing and they were losing.
Right. Yeah. And Abdul Adams and CeeDee Lamb, were they not injured?
CeeDee Lamb got hurt scoring a touchdown on the first touchdown drive of the game.
That's what just doesn't make sense to me. If they're going to make an excuse for one team and then not make an excuse for the other.
But Iowa State, their loss to Iowa State is keeping them. Please, Ohio State is ranked ahead of OSU, and they got throttled by Iowa. Penn State and Oklahoma State both have a similar team that they played. Go look it up. It's Pitt. Guess what happened in that game? Penn State won 33-14. Oklahoma State won 59-21 at Pitt. And
a game that OSU literally probably could have scored two or three more touchdowns.
They kicked the shit out of them. Just obliterated
There
them.
were people sleeping before halftime in the stadium.
No, that's right. They caught people sleeping in the stands.
It doesn't make any sense. And, I guess I can understand that's why people were so triggered last night, including yourself, Carey. It doesn't make any sense on what they are saying in the direction of, I guess, the decision-making process. And when you look at the playoff committee going into this year, it does make sense, though. There are a bunch of old people on there that I think are just appalled by the situation of the Big 12
It's the same thing
defense.
as it was last year. It's the perception, the national perception has made its way into that committee room where all they think is if you're not playing great defense, you're not a good football team. When Oklahoma has beat Ohio State, they've beaten Oklahoma State, both on the road. They've beaten TCU, like Josh just said. That win got absolutely no bump for beating the number 6 team in the country. It makes no sense.
I don't understand also why everybody's so focused on defense when, arguably OU has one of the best offenses right now, maybe of all time in the stats era. With ESPN's their weird ass stats or whatever, it doesn't make sense why they focus on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know. It just seems really, really messed up.
I've changed my mind. Kirby Hocutt, you're on top of Idiot Mountain.
Oh no. Well, yeah, I guess
the wrong AD got fired today. I'm just to say that.
It is, and I saw somebody say on Twitter last night too, and I thought it was pretty funny that it's ironic that Kirby Hocutt is the holder of all defensive truths when Texas Tech hasn't played a single lick of defense in the last 15 years.
We should literally let Mike Stoops put a chain around him with that gimp suit on and just lead him around if they win the national championship.
Maybe we could arrange that.
Bothers me, and Eddie, you kind of went into it. Why is it only defense that matters? Why is it okay that Alabama looked wildly mediocre on offense on Saturday? They had one play, get it to Calvin Ridley. That's the the option we have, and that's okay. But if Oklahoma's mediocre, hell, look at Clemson. Clemson's damn near 40th in the country in total offense right now. People keep treating them like they're the Deshaun Watson Clemson. They're not. They're a defensive team that has to get by with some big plays from time to time offensively. That's how they're moving the ball. Kelly Bryant is not moving the ball consistently. And anybody trying to – and that's why the whole thing with him being out against Syracuse, people forget Clemson was losing that game when he went out. Like, it's not like he was the deciding factor. They were in trouble before he got hurt.
And then the other thing on top of all that, Josh, is the fact that Kirby Hocutt brings up the fact that Iowa State's a 4-loss team. Syracuse has lost 6 games.
4-6.
And they gave up 64 points to Wake Forest on Saturday. Wake Forest is known for 2 things. They're not North Carolina and Duke, and that Tim Duncan went there. That's the only thing that people care about Wake Forest. And maybe Skip Prosser, R.I.P.
Oh, Eddie went with a little heart there at the end. I like that. Eddie's showing all of his sides. That was the Sears moment for Eddie. That was the softer side.
Skip Prosser's dead,
isn't he? I thought one of their coaches died.
Bobby Crimmins is he still? No, I'm thinking Georgia Tech now.
I was going to say that's Tech.
I think I think you're right. I think Skip Prosser did.
Yeah, July 26, 2007.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah, 10 years. Rest in peace.
Wow, we're up to date on all the current basketball events. So,
all right. So
it's just bullshit.
Look, here's the thing. Yes, and I have perspective, which is if OU wins out, they're fine, maybe. But yeah, I know Josh loves his.
We can go. We can do this if you want.
I just see Josh with it's the meme from Hangover when it's Alan's he's got all the numbers floating in front of him like he's Rain Man. Like that's Josh when this discussion comes up.
This is my deal, Josh. I don't think that there is any way that if OU were to win the table and Baker wins the Heisman or is going to win the Heisman, there's no way that they leave him out of the playoffs. There's just no way that they would do that to TV ratings.
People keep saying that. You're talking about human beings, and I'll tell you what tells me that's going to be an issue, that people keep saying the Heisman, that's going to be somehow the deciding factor.
It's going to be after the announcement, right?
Well, not even that. That's exactly what – because I think, guys, unless Baker Mayfield goes out and has a nuclear meltdown these last 3 games,
right,
he's winning the Heisman.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's coming. Like, I think everybody can see it. So forget all that. If they're sitting there in the committee and they're saying to themselves, okay, we've got Oklahoma, or let me just lay out my possibility. And this is the only way that I see Oklahoma not getting in. This is the only thing that works. If Alabama beats Auburn, then Alabama and Georgia go to the SEC championship game. Georgia beats Alabama in a close one. It's got to be like 27-24, great game, kind of like that game a couple years ago with A.J. McCarron and Aaron Murray when they played just a great SEC championship game.
Let the time just run out on the clock. That was
exactly,
hilarious.
Yeah, like just something real narrow. Wisconsin's got to go undefeated. They have to win the Big Ten. They have to be unscathed. At that point, obviously, Miami or Clemson's in. If they both, again, things could get real crazy, but if they both lose a game, then OU's fine. But one of those two has to run the table. If those 3 things happen, you've got either Miami or Clemson undefeated or Clemson with 1 loss. The undefeated, the defending national champions. Clemson's in, period. Or Miami, whichever one it's going to be. Then you've got Georgia. They're going to go in because they just won the SEC championship game and beat Bama on a neutral field. They're in. So then you've got Oklahoma, you've got Bama, and you've got Wisconsin. Wisconsin's going to be an undefeated Big Ten champion. I think the committee's really going to have a hard time saying no. So then you've got 1 spot, and it's Bama or it's Oklahoma. And I get it that Oklahoma is going to have the Heisman Trophy winner, and they're going to have 1 loss, and all of those things. And I think they should be in. I don't want anybody to misunderstand. I think Oklahoma would be deserving of that 4th spot. But if you think that Alabama doesn't carry unnatural weight with that committee, you're kidding yourself. They're number 1 in the country and haven't beaten anyone of note.
Right. Well, 2 things. I guess
I'm going to play the theme from A Beautiful Mind as we continue this discussion.
I think that situation is obviously that is the number 1 doomsday scenario, and I think there would have to be a lot of things for that to happen and for all that to happen. I mean, that is the one thing that if you're an Oklahoma fan, you do not want to happen. Like that is doomsday 100%.
If any of those 3 things do not happen, OU's in. As long as obviously they cover their bases and they win the next 3 games, they're in. It's just that exact scenario. I think it's a coin flip, and I bet you money they'd pick Bama. I don't think they're going to turn away Alabama with one loss, losing to Georgia in the SEC championship game.
It would be very interesting, and either way, they are completely shitting on a national blue blood brand.
Guess what, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Guess what, guys? Auburn's running through everybody.
Oh.
Auburn's gonna beat Alabama. Alabama's not good enough to beat Auburn this year. If they play like they did against Georgia.
It's in Auburn.
Yes.
I feel like everybody's jumping on that Auburn hype train. Like, this is...
Well, then Georgia's terrible. And Notre Dame is terrible.
I think
guys,
there's a chance
we talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Right.
That Georgia, there was a lot of belief that I'm not sure was justified.
Well,
I'm not saying they were bad.
This is the problem.
Number one team in the country.
And the other thing is this, like, okay, so I don't want to be the cusser today. I don't want to be the over-cusser today. But
do it. Feels good. It feels real good when you leave, too.
Am I wrong, or did Notre Dame destroy USC just a few weeks ago? Like, how is USC rated above OSU and TCU?
It makes no sense.
None of them have a loss like that.
It makes no sense. I think the Oklahoma State thing, and I saw you talking about this on Twitter last night, Carey, they just don't have any solid wins, and they've lost both of their games have been at home, I guess, is their biggest. And when I say OSU, I'm talking about Oklahoma State, obviously.
I just said TOSU.
Oh, you're talking about Ohio State?
No, I'm talking about OSU, Oklahoma State, yeah.
I just it doesn't. There's a lot of questions that go into where the committee does not think much of the Big 12. It's very obvious.
It's a grudge that they're holding, and it's obvious. I mean, there is no and here's the thing: like, if OSU and TCU are ranked where they're supposed to be, then OU has 3 wins against the top 10.
Yeah.
In the college football rankings. There are people in that room. I've never been a truther, Eddie. I've left that up to you. But I'm calling conspiracy here, because if you have OSU and TCU ranked where they're supposed to be ranked, OU would be the only team. They would be number 1 by a mile, because they'd be the only team with 3 wins over top 10 teams. Well, I guess that'd knock Ohio State down.
But the same time, I mean, I think that you're...
But would that be 9, 10, 11, or 8, 9, 10? What's Ohio State?
Ohio State is 9th in this.
So they'd be at 3 wins against the top 11.
You know who I'm...
But this is the thing. It's like the SEC sucks so bad that we're not finding out anything about a team like Georgia. And we're really not finding out much about Alabama either. Because that conference blows. And the Pac-12 is the same way.
Yeah. I mean,
guys, you want the perfect example of the just hatred for the Big 12? Oklahoma State last week was 15. They go to Iowa State, beat a good Iowa State team in Ames, which is, for anyone that knows college football, that's a tough place to play. They go in, do that in November, no less, with Iowa State having everything in the world to play for. And Oklahoma State goes in and wins. They move up 2 spots. Penn State beats Rutgers, who is awful.
Yeah,
who was terrible. They were beating Penn State after the first quarter.
They beat them 35-6 at home. Like, this is not, that's not an impressive win. And they moved up 4 spots.
I knew that there was something.
How did that happen?
There was something awry when I saw 25 through 21, and you didn't see West Virginia in there, but Boise State, Memphis, and LSU were in there. Like,
yeah,
that just doesn't make sense to me. I think Memphis is a great story. Get out of my playoffs, though. You're not beating anybody good. I mean, they beat UCLA, but we all know that UCLA is a fledgling program.
And they didn't have Josh Rosen in that game.
Yeah. Well, no, they had Josh Rosen at Memphis.
I watched that game. I thought they didn't have him.
No, he did. I'm trying to remember if he finished. Yeah, he played, because he and the quarterback from
he threw an interception
Memphis
in the game.
just went nuts.
Yeah, you guys are right. Yeah. Well, I don't know.
The other crazy thing, though, too, is the fact that I think there's a very good chance. I don't know if it's going to be this weekend against Michigan. Probably not. I think Ohio State would throttle Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship.
Ohio State and Penn State are essentially the same football team.
I don't know who they are.
They've got some weapons, but they're not consistent offensively, and they both have quarterbacks that are up and down. Like Penn State, their tight end is fantastic. I don't know that kid's name.
Kasicki.
Yeah, Kasicki. He looks like a Greek god.
He's very good.
And we all know that Saquon Barkley is a really good running back. I know he's not getting a lot of yards. I think their offensive line must not be very good.
Yeah, I don't think they are. I mean,
Guys,
I think that's why they had to do some stuff with McSorley earlier in the year, like move him around and shit.
Yeah, they get him on the run a lot
because he can't stand in the pocket. Yeah. I mean, they get
Ohio
up.
State obliterated him.
Yeah, absolutely.
More rankings chaos. Mississippi State. I didn't notice this until just now. I'm sitting here looking at the rankings. They didn't drop a single spot.
Yeah,
in
they
their loss to
stayed
Alabama.
the same after losing to Alabama.
Washington loses by 8 on the road to a good Stanford team who's also in the 25. They dropped 9 spots. How the shit?
It makes
and
no
Mississippi
sense.
State has terrible losses, don't they?
They got killed by Georgia. I'd have to hang on. I'm pulling it up right now. They got. I know that Georgia was their first loss. They got massacred. They got killed by They got beat even worse at Auburn the next week, and then lost. And the Alabama loss. There's nothing wrong with that loss. I mean, they were winning that game for a huge portion of it. You know, to use another one of the committee's former words, game control. They had a lot of game control in that one, but they got murdered by Georgia and Auburn.
I'm looking at the College Football Playoff Committee. I didn't realize some of these guys were on it. Who's in charge of keeping Herb Duramedy awake after 8 o'clock?
See the old Virginia coach or something? Or
Central Michigan.
Okay.
Like, somebody has to keep him awake and change his diaper, I would think.
Yeah, they've got some olds in there.
Frank Beamer, Jeff Bauer.
Is Barry Alvarez gone?
Herb. He's gone because I had an entire paragraph of drafts saved that were ready to go in on Barry Alvarez, and then I realized that he wasn't on the committee.
Well, he and Osborne they were beating that defense drum.
Just a bunch of guys that are so stuck in their old ways that, I mean, actually, now that I think about it, Tom Osborne shouldn't be allowed to talk for what has happened to his football program. They gave up 400 yards on the ground this weekend or last weekend to Minnesota.
So, does Jeff Long lose his seat?
No, they said earlier today that he gets to stay on the committee. He can't run an athletic program, but he can run the college football playoff. That's all you need to know.
The most important thing in college sports. He can handle that. Got it.
Well, his own football, kind of like Kirby Hocutt. The people that are on this thing that are athletic directors have shitty football programs.
Yeah, if you can't run your own goddamn program, you shouldn't be allowed in charge of the college football playoff.
All right, let's move on a little bit because the Sooners do have a game this week. They just beat TCU. It was a fantastic performance. Baker Mayfield was outstanding in the first half. It was kind of strange watching it as it all kind of got shut down. But really what you come out of that game with, guys, I think is the biggest question mark is the secondary. Maybe not question mark, but just that is a really interesting development that we've seen happen, and that Parnell Motley was able to play. He just got benched. And Jordan Thomas, who apparently was out tailgating, didn't even come to the game. And then I asked Lincoln Riley about that this week at his press conference, and here he is. Lincoln, I asked because people saw him outside before the game, but we didn't see Jordan Thomas with the team. What's his status?
No, he's with us. He was injured and out for this game, and we made there was a team decision that he wasn't going to be on the sideline this game.
And before I could follow it up with what do you mean team decision, somebody else jumped in with a question that was irrelevant.
Was it about football?
They got back to football. Mm-hmm. It wasn't Dean. He didn't do it. It was
he didn't show up this weekend.
He wasn't there this week. But Barry Trammell did circle back around and asked him kind of to clarify everything.
Lincoln, a little clarification on Jordan Thomas. You said team decision not to be on the sideline. Mm-hmm. Is that for medical purposes or?
Medical purposes, yes.
Just didn't want him near getting into.
Yeah, sometimes those guys are a little limited where they can move around, and our sideline, especially, we made the decision to dress a bunch of guys for the sideline. We thought our scout team had a really strong week of preparation, so that's one of the different ways that we reward those guys when they're doing well. And you get 1 million people down there, and it just we talked about it a little bit, and we said, I don't want him getting rolled up down there.
And this kind of spurned some rumors because, the fan sites and stuff are trying to put out, half information, whatever posts. And
the sun will come up tomorrow, but it could be cloudy, but the sun might come up.
So, you you had all this hysteria, like, oh my God, is Jordan Thomas mad and has he quit the team and he wasn't at practice? He's been at practice all week. Now, he hasn't been dressed out at all, so that tells you kind of where he is injury-wise. I don't know, I assume that it is some type of sprain that he's got, whether it's ankle or knee. I would believe it to be knee based on the brace he was wearing after the OSU game. But let's put one thing to rest. Jordan Thomas is still on the team. He seems to be very questionable for this week. As we said, hasn't even dressed up for practice yet this week. But what it comes down to, guys, is OU is looking like they're going to move forward with their 2 true freshman corners.
It was that whole situation, like with the press conference, just with the way that they answered things, the follow-up question, it definitely made me like
yeah, I came out of there going, like, there's something going on.
What is going on here? Yeah. That was very weird. But I mean, to be honest, it almost feels like he was going to be benched anyways.
Oh, I think he was. Yeah,
like both of them.
Well, I mean, and maybe they are benching Motley because
both of those freshmen were good on Saturday. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that they were tested the way that maybe a Will Greer will test them, but that was very strong, though, I would say, the performance from Trey Brown and Trey Norwood.
Yeah, they played really well.
Los Treys.
And yeah, I do kind of wonder, like, if they had to bench Motley just because they were like, look, Jordan Thomas, we can't just bench him. He's been Motley's been as much a problem as Jordan Thomas has been.
And it's been weird, too, the way that they've kind of handled Parnell Motley, just in that, like, every time that his name has come up, even after the game up in Stillwater, I thought it was strange the way that Mike Stoops answered questions about, like, him moving forward, just in the fact that he said something to the effect of, talking about different. I forgot how he mentioned it, but
here, I've got it for you. Here it is.
How did the true freshmen take, finding out they were going to start, and then your upperclassmen who've been multi-year starters, how did they take it as well?
Where do the upperclass, they don't have, there's nothing, they've had plenty of opportunities. We've stuck by them and through thick and thin, and, there comes a time where you gotta do something. So, it is what it is.
And you know what? I asked Mike yesterday kind of about Parnell Motley because, it's really strange. You guys remember, go back to the beginning of the season, go back to Ohio State. He was the only guy that was making plays for this defense at one point in this season.
Just got beat down over the season. I think he's gotten beat down and then lost confidence, and then you lose your technique, and then you're really shit crucked. I don't even know what that word is. Well, I was gonna say the F word.
Did you say shit truck or cruck?
No, I said shit crucked. I think that's a new word.
We're gonna have to check Urban Dictionary and see if that's allowed. So I had a chance to talk to Mike Stoops yesterday at practice, just about Parnell Motley and the fact that, you know what happened to this guy? Like, what's the deal? And here's kind of what he had to say.
Mike, when you started the season, Parnell was really one of your biggest playmakers. With him, is it an injury situation? Is it just a confidence thing?
There's a lot of things that, it's a long season and you're going to have ups and downs throughout it, and you just got to work through it. It's not like a batter that goes in a slump. You just got to keep working your way out of it. You got to find something in your game and really evaluate what you're doing mentally and physically, and try to put yourself in a better position to make plays so you can go out there, your preparation. So there's some things that that he has to evaluate too, and try to get himself in better position to make plays.
Can you tell how uncomfortable Mike Stoops is talking about that right there?
About benching Motley?
Well, just about what he's, what happened to him.
Yeah. That's why I kind of thought it was strange, because he was a little bit like that after the way that, I guess what I'm saying is the way that he talked about after, I believe, the Bedlam game was, it almost made it seem like there were some outside motives that have been affecting the way Motley's playing. Yeah. I have no idea what that would be. I know that there's a bunch of rumors about Jordan Thomas that have been strange.
But we know Jordan Thomas is, he's had some knucklehead in him. Like,
there has to be a reason for him to have been so bad this year. Like, I think that there is
Jordan Thomas,
yes,
you mean?
there is something going on. I don't know if it's off the field. I don't know if it's on the field and he's just lost all confidence in himself. But, like, you can't – this is a guy that I was talking to somebody before post-practice interviews on Tuesday, just the fact that, like, I think in the Sugar Bowl game last year, one of the color commentators like, this guy's a surefire first-round draft pick next year. And it's like, what the hell has happened to this guy? He is awful.
And he came back to be a first-round draft. I mean, that's what's –
he came back to be awful.
The way that he's played this year, he would have been better off leaving after last year.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, he has cost himself, I would say, at least six figures.
But you say cost himself, but he did it to himself.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, there's nobody to blame but himself.
So
he done f***ed up.
Hold on.
Mark it.
Writing stuff down.
It's been bad, though. I don't understand it. I mean, Josh, do you have any explanation for the downfall of Jordan Thomas?
Or Parnell
maybe
Motley.
Or Parnell Motley. Or maybe we should just talk more about the freshmen and how well they've played.
With Motley, it's always looked to me like, and I thought Mike I think he might even have just flat out said it after the Oklahoma State game, is there was, some confident stuff and it was getting into his head and he just wasn't doing the things he can do. While with Thomas, I can't ever tell if every time he gets beat, if he just fakes the injury or if there's something going on with him where he's not right. And they were just playing him because they didn't think the freshmen were ready or whatever it was, but we going all the way back to the Baylor game, Eddie, we talked about it on the pod. Immediately he started grabbing his knee and kind of acting funky and acting like it didn't feel good. And then he'll come back the next week and act like everything's fine. But it's always the leg, the lower leg. So I can't help but thinking, this can't all be fake. Something is wrong because
it's a mental thing, yeah.
Yeah, Jordan Thomas, I think the idea he was going to be a first-round pick it was wrong. It was just wrong from the beginning. But he's better than this. There's something up. That's not who Jordan Thomas is. And I'm not saying he's a elite guy, but he's got 3 years of pretty good tape, and then this year he's just been an abomination.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think what we can look at is freshmen moving forward, they're going to have every opportunity until they prove they can't do it. Which, Kansas, you better not screw up against Kansas. That should be easy.
Yeah, well,
that's a real problem if you're going to have issues against Kansas.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I think the one thing though is something that we've been saying for a long time on this podcast is just the fact that if you're going to go out and lose, at least do it with a sense of, I don't know, make me act like you want to be there. At least do that for me. And I could live with everything else.
I just think that Jordan Thomas gets so down on himself. It's not he doesn't want to be on this earth when he gets beat.
Well,
it's not about football or anything. It's just
if it's like that, he's playing the wrong sport and especially the wrong position.
He just has a serious confidence issue.
That's not what you want to be saying about.
But the thing is, even when he does everything that he's supposed to do, he still doesn't make the play.
I mean, there has been some balls that you can't play it any better.
You can't be in better position.
You got to get your hand on it, and Trey Norwood has gotten his hand on it.
It's like that play that happened in the end zone where Trey Norwood actually had a PI. He had a personal pass interference, but the guy was going to catch the ball and get a touchdown regardless, but he still knocked the ball out of his hands. It was a brilliant play on his part, even though he got the penalty. That's something that OU's DBs and the corners haven't been doing probably since Zach Sanchez was around. And we saw a little bit of it with Parnell Motley, but that's out the window. That's gone now.
You want to... Let me make sure I'm getting this right. You know how many pass breakups Trey Norwood has?
3.
5.
Wow.
You know how many Jordan Thomas had?
2.
2. That's incredible. Trey Norwood has played 5 quarters of meaningful football.
Yeah. He's done a good job. I mean, look, this is something that everybody's going to keep monitoring. But if they play well, I thought Neville Gallimore coming back was a big boost.
It's huge
to their defense. Their defensive line played really well against TCU, and we kind of only touched on it. But man, coming out of that game, you think to yourselves, okay, well, OU's probably going to play TCU again. that doesn't scare, if you're a fan, you're like, that doesn't scare me. What I do think you thought was, hopefully we play TCU again and not Oklahoma State. Because I think Oklahoma State's, if they and TCU played again today, I think Oklahoma State wins by a touchdown.
Yeah, I do too.
10.
I do too.
2.
I feel like Kenny Hill has come back to being Kenny Hill. Like he's more of the guy that I recognize. And unless Oklahoma State just had all the turnover problems and all the issues that they did to themselves against TCU.
They had 4 turnovers in that game.
Yeah. If they could avoid that, I think they're clearly a better team than TCU.
And remember, they lost 2 of their starters on their offensive line on the right side. Like, the right side of their offensive line was just trash during that game. And now all those guys are healthy.
And probably their best lineman in that group is Crabtree.
Yeah, and then Lundblade was out for a long time.
It's going to be really interesting to see what TCU does this weekend in Lubbock. It almost sounds like
if Hill
they're
doesn't
using.
play.
It almost sounds like I heard an interview with a TCU reporter on the way up here or down here, Carey. It sounds like to an extent that they want to go with Sean Robinson because the offense has been that bad with Kenny Hill the last couple of weeks.
They put in Sean Robinson for a series.
I know, and
that must have been when he got banged up.
It almost sounds like they're using, like Gary Patterson's using the injury thing as almost a little bit of a crux to say this is why we're going to put Sean Robinson in. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think TCU
Maybe
wins
to
this
massage
weekend.
his ego or something.
Yeah, or a little bit. I think TCU still wins though. I just
Tech's just not very good.
That's basically what I think, but it will be interesting.
So I do think if you're an OU fan, I think you just want everybody to win out the rest of the way, whether it's Iowa State, OSU, or TCU.
Yeah, don't you want? That's kind of what I was thinking a little bit last night. Is don't you want TCU to win that game, just so TCU stays up? I mean,
if you're
they'll probably win. They'll probably win by 4 touchdowns this weekend in Lubbock and drop 5 spots in the college football playoff.
If you're just a general fan, you probably would want to have OU play OSU in the championship, just because I do think those are the 2 best teams.
Oh, who wouldn't want to see Bedlam?
Yeah,
Bedlam Part 2.
A game that was 59-52. Yeah, give me that again, please. I'm sure Mike Stoops doesn't want to see that again.
The best thing that could have happened though was, I guess, Iowa State beating Oklahoma State, because I think anybody that plays Iowa State in the Big 12 championship probably would beat them by 3 touchdowns, especially if Zeb Nolan's in charge.
Here's the other thing. Like the committee, back to the committee, I'm sorry. The committee didn't take into account that Iowa State had a quarterback that, as Eddie says, point shaved in that Texas loss.
Absolutely, no doubt.
Jacob
I
Park
can't believe that people don't talk about that. People don't talk about that enough.
Yeah, the only bad loss that they have is when they had a different quarterback who was terrible.
And now he is, I don't even know where Jacob Parks is.
It's amazing that
rehab
both
or somewhere.
Kyle Kempt and that Zeb Nolan guy are both head and shoulders better than what's his name?
It almost
Cody
makes
Park.
Maybe Matt Campbell's shaving points in that Texas game.
I hope Iowa State can hold on to him.
I think it'll be tough.
Their buyout on him is huge. That's going to take a real commitment from somebody big.
The conference needs.
There's plenty of big time programs looking for head coaches these days.
Oh, you're not wrong. I mean, it's not just. I mean, Matt Campbell's got one good year at a major level.
Yeah, that's a scary. If I'm Florida, that's a scary hire for me. That's
He's done more than Scott Frost.
Well, I'm not hiring Scott Frost either.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about that along with the buyout. Not only, I mean, if it's one or the other, okay.
Was Scott Frost even calling plays when he was Oregon's offensive coordinator?
He took over, I think, after.
He was in that bowl game, wasn't he?
He was in the bowl game, and then I think he did maybe for like a year. Was it with Helfrich? After he ran Oregon into the ground?
Yeah, but Helfrich was calling the plays, I thought, the entire time that.
I thought he took over like halfway through the season and started calling his own stuff. I'm not positive
I'd have
on
to
that,
ask like
though.
Schroeder or something. But it doesn't matter if you're head coach. I mean, Kevin Sumlin became a head coach without calling plays as a coordinator at OU.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, I think keeping Matt Campbell in the conference would be huge. We'll see if somebody takes that shot at him. All right, one thing I wanted to talk about that we haven't gotten to, Josh is the big Jordan Brand announcement that happened this week, and I know you did a video, I did a write-up on it, but Lincoln Riley was asked about it at his press conference on Monday, and here's what he had to say.
the response in recruiting's been great. I mean, it's the best. It's the brand that players want to be in. I mean, it is. It's the best thing out there. And part of it is the Jordan brand is so select. It's not like any team can just go and sign with them. Teams are handpicked. Their athletes that they endorse are handpicked, and it's such a small select group and the quality, the name behind it, all that is so good. It's just going to be. There's a lot of things that separate Oklahoma, and you can add this to the list.
And it's Josh has kind of become one of those things now. Like and it's happened to me even just a little bit. I'm not even a kid, but like you look at the OU logo now, and it's different. I mean, like the perception of it is no longer. And this is not a shot at Bob Stoops, but it used to be okay. That's a blue blood program. It's kind of like looking at Duke basketball. Like it's kind of not stale, but it's a little sterile, and just not really. You don't think of it as fun. Like Michigan, you always think of the Fab Five, and then they become a Jordan brand school in football, and you're like, man, that's kind of a hip program, kind of a hip organization. Now, you combine that Jordan brand thing, and it's almost like in the new facilities, and it's like OU has really kind of become a hip football program all of a sudden.
They have, like, and it's how you think about it. This happened in the matter of about a year? I mean, where Oklahoma all of a sudden kind of started doing some different things. They got big on social, and we used to talk about this, guys, 2 years ago, that Oklahoma was just steady. They were always going to be where they were.
They were boring.
Yeah. I tried to go nice with it, but you're right. It was just boring. Like everybody knew what you were going to be from year to year to year, and there is a strength in that. But I don't think it's what resonates with players, especially this current era where these guys want to be big and brash and out there in front of people. And like Lincoln Riley said, man, this just every time a kid watches an OU game, they're going to see that freaking Jumpman logo, and they're going to, I'm not saying that I am even young enough to understand it, but it matters to these kids. It really does. Now, I will say in all my conversations talking with kids off a big visit weekend, I can't think of it coming up without me asking about it. But still, when we do talk about it, it's, oh, man, that's amazing, that they would pick Oklahoma. It says, a lot about the program. Obviously some of that they're almost reciting what they've heard from Lincoln Riley and company. But still, it's a really big deal, and it will help Oklahoma in recruiting. I had some people ask me last night, was it going to give them like 2 or 3 spots in the Rivals top 10? I'm not saying that. That's a little extreme, but do I think there's a guy out there that probably would pick Oklahoma that maybe wouldn't have otherwise? Yeah, probably.
I think it just kind of goes into everything that they've built as far as momentum when you throw in Baker Mayfield. Like, just from a social media aspect, Baker Mayfield moves the needle more than anything I can ever remember any time that I've ever covered OU. You put something out on Baker Mayfield, it gets retweeted like unstoppable.
It's got bromance.
Well, that might be it too, but it's crazy though.
Does Sam get jealous of your bromance with Baker?
I don't know. I haven't talked to Sam in a while. He's busy. He's a busy man.
That sounded more like a shot to me.
Won't return my phone calls.
If he doesn't want to talk to you, you'll go get a new cute quarterback best friend.
Yeah, I only quarterbacks. That's a rule in my household.
Oh my god! Okay, I'm gonna approve that F-bomb.
But I will say, going back to the Jordan Brand stuff, and I think even didn't James Porchilla tweet you something? It is a huge deal in the basketball department.
Yeah, I
went over and talked to the basketball guys yesterday, and Trae Young could not have been. He even hinted that he knew this had been coming for a while, and he didn't say that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
But he was like, I think it only further added to Oklahoma's pitch.
Well, I think it's not so much like with football, like basketball. It's everything. I mean, it's what you wear on the court. It's what you wear off the court. But I think like with football, maybe I'm wrong. Like I'm older than Josh, so I'm even more out of the loop. The sense I get is it's more about kind of the stuff you get off the field than it is what you're wearing on
no
the
doubt.
field.
I mean,
the shoes,
yeah,
the warm-ups. Because like we've seen like OU, and I was researching this for the story I wrote. Like Florida and OU both, like their bowl sweats were Jordan brand, and so like there were some people in Florida that were like jumping the gun, like, oh, Florida's switching to Jordan, they're going to become a Jordan brand school. But no, I mean that's Nike's kind of been doing that for people recently, especially the bigger
teams. They send out
teams.
little teases almost.
Yeah. So, but no, like so now their everyday warm-up gear is going to be Jordan brand, which is a big lifestyle brand.
I just don't think that people can grasp how big of a deal it is, and especially.
Now I'll say this, like it's still, you guys know how it goes. You know how this goes, Josh. Like some kids are really into that stuff, where other kids are just like, I don't really care about clothes.
Yeah, we kind of, especially after practice yesterday, we kind of caught the two guys that. I think Caleb Keller was pretty cool about it, but I don't think Amani Bledsoe could. Really care.
Bledsoe does not give a shit about Jordan brand.
I think it's like a lot of those kids though. Even if you don't care about it, you're like, oh, I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, at least people that see me wearing this are gonna like what I'm wearing.
Right.
It's like, I remember when I was a kid, and my mom would take us to Ross, Dress for Less, and my brother would only buy Ralph Lauren. Like if they didn't have his shirt in his size in Ralph Lauren, he didn't want it. It's like
pretty
he wouldn't get
commendable.
Izod or Izod when I was growing up was not like it is now.
Got to get the Gator.
Lacoste
is.
But so like but it's like that. It's like if you're snobby about your clothing,
right?
You want Jordan brand,
which I think. For the most part, I think a lot of people athletes, especially athletes.
Well, I mean, with hip hop and all that stuff now, I mean, swag is part of culture.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a huge deal, though.
I never thought I'd just randomly have that conversation. Swag is part of culture. I'm too old to be talking like that.
We are your culture 101.
Let's wrap this up with Lincoln Riley and the Jordan brand stuff. And I did ask him kind of about facilities, Jordan brand, how all these things are kind of coming together to kind of make OU cool.
You got here when the new facilities were getting ready to come in. From the time you got here to now, the Jordan brand stuff, just how much has that done for the perception of the program with younger people specifically?
I think it's done a lot. There's always been a great history here, and I think what we've tried to do is find the balance between honoring the past and all that's been done here in the incredible history of Oklahoma football, athletics, this university, but also pushing towards the future and being new and being current and continuing to push the issue so that we can continue to get better. And all of those things that you named have been big steps in that.
So
the best way to honor the past would probably be winning a national championship, and they could probably wear whatever they want.
Well, and Josh, wouldn't it be huge for OU to be able to say they, along with Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State, are the only teams that have been to multiple college football playoffs?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's all kinds of teams that will make it in there once. Oregon got in. You can go down the list. There's plenty of teams that have been there one time. But when you're on that short list, look at it. You're talking about 3 other teams that have won national championships in this era. So obviously, if Oklahoma can join that club, then it goes even farther. But just being there consistently and saying, year in and year out, we expect to be in the playoff. That's and having that not just be lip service, but hey, we've been there 2 of the last 3 years, guys. I mean, that's what you're looking for. But like we talked about last year, and I don't want to trigger Eddie, but you have to go there and put on a good performance. It can't be another thing like Clemson. You need to go out there, and you don't have to win. I'm not saying like if you lose, it's a failure. I'm just saying you need to be competitive, which we all know in that game in the fourth quarter of the Orange Bowl, OU was done. It was over. That game was complete. And Oklahoma needs to go out on a big-time stage against a big-time team and really win one of these games. I know everybody's going to yell Ohio State, and that's fine. I get that. But I'm talking about a game where literally people that don't care about college football are watching college football.
Just the getting past the loss of the big game Bob moniker and all that stuff.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, pretty hard to argue with what Lincoln Riley's done in big games so far. But obviously, it's hard to say, look at us, we've gone to the playoff, when every coach that you recruits against you, especially when you recruit against Alabama, Clemson, or Ohio State, can say, yeah, but look at what happened when you got there.
You know what's really funny, Josh, is when you think about go back to the summer when Lincoln Riley took over and kind of the onslaught that was going on, and really it was like right after OU lost to R.J. Henderson and Theo Weiss. They had them committed, then they lost them, and there was a big panic about, this momentum, where'd it go, and blah blah blah. And then Texas is getting Ron Tatum.
Ron Tatum. Yep.
They get Ron Tatum, and then you start, and then the Casey Thompson things happens, and you're just like, oh my God, Texas is on the verge of
here he comes.
Here comes the real Texas. Like, oh God, OU's going to have to deal with this now. And then fast forward to now. Texas, I mean, the TVs and the lockers, all that stuff happened. Texas still looks like a program that can't, get out of its own way.
In layman's terms, Lincoln Riley told Tom Herman to suck his
OU has done everything that Texas wishes that they were able to do.
Well, and it's so funny because we talked about it in the pod back in the summer, guys. There was all that push from Texas, and I know talking to recruits, they're telling these recruits, hey, it's going to be different. Bob's gone now. It's they're not going to have the same level of success. He was a great coach. And like I said, at the time, that was after months of being like, oh, Bob's tired and he's past it and blah, blah, blah. But as soon as Bob left, oh, they'll never replace him. And that's the way recruiting is. But you're absolutely right. Texas, everything they tried to tell recruits they were going to do, OU's doing. So, God, we talked about it. There were people that bought in that Texas was a national championship contender this year.
We can say now that they weren't really serious, were they?
They were.
I bet you Brown believed what he was saying at the time.
I think he did.
You don't think he was just trolling a little bit? Like, I'm going to take a chance. This could happen.
Maybe this will get me some subscribers.
Yeah, or you think he really, honest to God, thought that this team was going to go play for a national title?
Well, guys, we've heard about it. That there was some sort of meeting of the minds after Herman was hired.
Oh, yeah.
That you're going to get on board with the way I see things, and this is how we're going to run things, and we're not going to have leaks. And I think in several cases, there was a rush to be Tom Herman's guy.
You could have just bought him a bottle of vodka and done that.
Or paid for his dinner.
Yeah. Or paid for, Tom, you don't have to eat a burger and water this week.
How awesome would it be if Lincoln and Tom just happen to be at the same restaurant sometimes, and Lincoln's like, he calls a waiter over, I got his bill. Let me get his bill. And just watch Herman's head just explode.
The way Riley is, he'd probably put it on video and then tweet it out or something. One of those like badass videos that they do on his Twitter account.
Eric Stryker's doing the audio for it.
Yeah, doing the voiceover.
When some bitch starts talking shit, that.
What's been interesting with it, like even after they beat Texas, even after they've done all this stuff in recruiting, like they haven't, like Texas, they were the ones with the ain't no river wide enough stuff that got thrown out there, and then the Wolves stuff. Like OU kind of participated in that a little bit. They haven't ever since. I mean, they basically just been like, we're taking care of our own shit. We don't care about you.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's very important for them to kind of finish it off and at least get to the playoff. I think would be a good step in the right direction. But, with Baker Mayfield and everything that he's going to probably go on to win this year as far as national awards.
Oh, man.
They can't get any hotter right now. They literally can't get any hotter.
Like, literally, Texas is just waiting, hoping that Kyler Murray sucks next year. That's the only chance they have to start rebuilding momentum.
Yeah, or I mean,
and they are going more national.
Maybe they'll make a bowl game this year. That'd be a step in the right direction. Got to win a game here over the last 2 weeks.
5-5, right?
I guess they'll probably get in because there's so many damn bowl games now that they'll have
Kansas
to fill it out.
They're ahead there.
They are ahead of there.
I know we've got all off season to talk about this, but I just want to hear like projections right now. It doesn't have to be a long answer. I don't even want it to be a long conversation because, like I said, we have plenty of time to discuss it. Handicapping it right now, Kyler Murray and Austin Kendall, like where would you rank it?
Oh, I think Kyler Murray clearly is the starter.
Like 85%?
Yes.
Okay.
I might even go 90.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any doubt, though, that there is not a better quarterback on the sidelines that holds a clipboard like Austin Kendall. He doesn't even bring his helmet out, and I truly appreciate that. Like, he knows that he's just going
there to hold the
clipboard.
Yeah.
I'm not bringing a helmet out. You better have my hat on the sidelines ready for me to roll.
If Baker's leg goes in a weird direction, then I'll get my helmet.
It's pretty funny. I get a kick out of that every time I see him running out because he just seems like he kind of has a little Mayfield in him, just as far as I think he's a little cocky. Yeah. I don't think you can play I don't think you can play quarterback for Lincoln Riley and not be a little bit cocky. How about that?
That was Trevor Knight's problem.
Right. I think that's right. But no, Kyler to me is clearly going to be the guy next year. I don't question it at all.
Do you think it's just because it's such an easy segue? You know, they don't have to change. He can do a lot of the same things Baker does.
Not even that
physically,
so much.
I'm not trying to make that comparison. I just mean he's capable.
And what's strange is like Baker's kind of started running more, but Baker's kind of done what Jason White did without having two bad knees, which is he shut down the running and became a better passer. And now, last year he was fantastic as a passer. And that was coming off of the concussion against TCU and against Clemson. Like, he didn't run at all last year. I mean, he did some, but not like what he's doing this year.
Yeah.
So he became more competent as a passer, and I think Kyler Murray will be the same way. I mean, I think Lincoln Riley will put some stuff in for him to take advantage of that, but he's going to be one of those guys that wants to stay in the pocket and prove what a good passer he is. And he's a really good deep ball thrower.
Threw into who was that?
Lee Morris.
It was Marquise Brown's first touchdown this year.
But he also threw into Lee Morris.
Kyler did.
I think that was the first one.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, that was the Allen. Yeah, because it was the whole Allen.
Yeah.
But the Marquise Brown came later. That was
Tulane,
yeah.
Eddie, when you're shooting video of the catch Marquise Brown had the other night for sights and sounds and all that stuff, is there, how well could you track that? I still can't believe he caught that damn ball.
It's kind of funny because it's like I'm looking through the lens, so a lot of what I get during the game I know is going to be good when you can hear the crowd. Like, there's just this certain kind of not a hush, but it's almost like a building
roar kind of.
It's like, okay, he has a chance to catch this, and then I thought it was really funny the way he bounced off the ground. I mean, Marquise Brown's so small that I was kind of worried that he got hurt a little bit.
One time I did that thing. I'm one of these people that, if something, I don't know if I've talked about this before, I might have. When everybody says, "Oh, I don't want to see that," like the Gordon Hayward injury, I want to see it. People are like, "Oh, don't look." I'm like, it's going to gross me out and it's going to make me queasy, but I have to see it.
You got to see it.
I got to see it once. Yeah. I don't need to see it again, but I got to see it once.
I needed to see it once. And so, this was I don't know, at the beginning of YouTube, but somebody told me that I worked with this guy named LP Pinnell, and this got me in a lot of trouble with Jared Followell's wife of Kings of Leon, because LP was going to a game at Texas Tech, and he was walking through somebody. They ended up with the group he was with. They ended up going to somebody's house, into their backyard, and so the video starts, and there's a goat hanging by its neck above a tiny swimming pool, and then there's a guy standing next to it with a samurai sword. And so they beheaded the goat. They cleaned it and ate it and all that stuff. But he sent me that video, and that's the one video I wish I'd never seen in my entire life.
Do you wish it was Tommy Tupperville?
No. I don't want to see it. Now that I will not watch the ISIS beheading
gore.
stuff.
Yeah,
there's no way.
What about the Go Red Raiders guy?
I just hate that on principle.
Okay. I know. That's a pain. People, I don't know who's more pained by that, you or JD, because you both are so kind of synonymous with it.
Yeah. The morning show likes to play it whenever Texas Tech comes up, and it literally is like PTSD. It wasn't fun. I mean, it was. It was one of the worst days of my professional life. That guy, you hear that video a little bit, and you think, "Oh, that's really funny," but it was literally 30 minutes of that stuff, trying to interview people in the middle of that jackass.
At some point this summer, I really want to tackle a 30 for 30 documentary about that day. Get all the guys that were a part of it.
Brian Davis,
get
and
BD.
Mike Jones, and John Shin, and Chuck Long.
We need the close up on Carey, and like you see him like start to break down. He's getting emotional. Pulls off a little mic clip and walks off the screen. He just can't handle it.
By the way, that was yesterday. It was really touching moment. If we can do things like this on our podcast, but Caleb Kelly, which I thought was asked way too quickly about Tony Perry. I mean, that's kind of one of those things like you wait until you think you're about done to ask him about that because it's going to be tough for him emotionally.
Right.
And he started talking about it, and I think I should have probably pulled up. I could pull up your video real quick.
Yeah, it's on Vimeo. That was probably, and I don't think awkward's the right word, but it was just the kind of like the saddest post-practice moment I've been a part of. I can't ever remember a time like that of somebody talking about the passing of a close, I don't know if loved one is the right word, but somebody that is so close to him that it obviously has affected Caleb
Well,
Kelly.
he's from a single-parent family, right, Josh?
Yeah.
Valerie is single-parent.
Yes. Yeah. He, basically, her and his aunt have been a big part of
He's talked about
him.
his aunt before a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Tony Perry was, I would say, probably a bit of a father figure for him, too. And he talks about here all the stuff that he did for him. But here's Caleb Kelly after he was asked about the passing of Tony Perry. And quickly, Josh, Tony Perry, just let people know exactly who he was.
Tony Perry was a guy from the Fresno area that, like, 25 years ago just started working with kids. And they always talked about it, all the articles I've read that, obviously from Fresno area people that knew more than I did. Kind of the west side of Fresno, from what I can gather, one of the tougher areas of Fresno. And really took a lot of kids under his wing. I mean, you can go really, if you went through the Rivals database since, going back to 2002 and you looked up Fresno area recruits, I would bet you 85% of them had a relationship with Tony Perry to one degree or another. He was a guy, put guys' names out in front of people. I can tell you flat out, he was the first person to ever tell me the name Caleb Kelly. I'd never heard of Caleb before I talked to Tony. So he was just one of those guys that really – and so often we end up generalizing, and frankly, I think a lot of cases we're right about some of these people that try to help these kids and are doing it for the wrong reasons. Tony Perry was not a guy that was living the good life or anything like that. He worked as a high school assistant. He just wanted to help these kids get somewhere, and I think that's why you've seen, I mean, from guys in the NFL right now to guys like Caleb, even to guys still working with him in high school, just an outpouring of emotion because he really was. He was a good man that wanted to help people.
Here's Caleb Kelly after he was asked about his passing.
He passed away on Saturday, and I found out right before the game. And shoot, I don't even know if I'd be here without Tony Perry. That's one of my best friends. That's a dude. You changed my life, for real. You changed my life, changed so many guys' lives. On the west side, the guys, he changed the guys on the north side. He didn't care who it was, he was going to talk to you. He always was humble about it.
He always liked Oklahoma too, didn't he? He sent a lot of you guys here.
He loved the Stoops brothers big time. Loved the Stoops brothers.
All right, so there's some of Caleb Kelly. You can watch that whole video on Soonerscoop.com. But yeah, just it hadn't really. You don't have a lot of moments like those. I mean, tragedy, striking like that in the middle of a football
season.
season.
Him to come out and play like he found out before he took the field for the game.
Crazy.
I was going to say I missed that the first time I heard it when you guys put it up last night. I missed that he'd said he heard before the game. I thought he didn't know until after.
Yeah, tough deal. Very tough deal. Very sad deal.
But Josh, let's talk a little bit about recruiting. I say it like, well, let's throw it in here at the end. See, there goes Carey.
There goes Carey again.
I will say this. I think it's just a good representation of where Oklahoma is in the recruiting aspect or landscape right now. when you're talking about a 2020 commit being not just their first commit, it's their second commit out of the DFW area.
He's not a quarterback either.
And not a quarterback.
You guys want to see me triggered?
We're going to trigger Josh.
So he is a quarterback?
He is not a quarterback.
Well, yeah, let's talk about, the eyeball emoji finally paid off for Lincoln Riley. Let's talk about that, Josh.
Yeah, for those that, maybe follow us and don't follow it that closely, because he kind of, I guess being a 2020 guy and there was all, we've already covered the conversation about where he plays. There wasn't a lot of fanfare over this, but I can tell you, talking to some people, Drew Sanders, 6'5", about 210, from Colleyville Heritage, in the kind of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, kind of right there in the middle.
That's where Cody Thomas came from.
Yeah, where Cody Thomas is from, absolutely. Committed to Oklahoma on Monday night after Lincoln Riley sent out the googly eyes Sunday night. And I can tell you flat out, talking to some people around Norman, they love this kid. Fans may not be over the moon about this yet because they don't know where he's going to be. But I got the question or the answer multiple times. We'll let him figure that out. They don't care. He is 6'5", 210, and he can run. They don't care about anything else. That'll work itself out. If I'm guessing, something tells me he'll end up on the defensive side of the ball. But I think everybody knows that's kind of where I want to shove every good athlete. So that's probably something to do with this. But he's a guy that I had a chance to see in the first game of the season. Funny enough, saw him opposite of Jace McClellan, who is now OU's other 2020 commitment, the running back from Aledo. Oh, damn it. So, who, funny enough as well, to kind of keep that story going, I will see Jace on Thursday night, and then I'll turn around and see Drew on Friday night. So it's kind of a full circle season for me. But no, with Sanders, though, like I said, I had a chance to see him. He was coming off an injury, so it wasn't his best night. But he's like I said, he's a guy that has a great frame, really long, still very lean. As you'd expect, I don't think the guy can drive yet. So it kind of tells you, to give people out there some perspective on just how young he is. But Drew is a really good athlete. I say he's lean, but he's a physically well put together guy. He's just going to keep adding weight naturally. And I would guess by the time he's a high school senior, he's probably 240 pounds. He's going to be a big, sturdy kid. And then you can figure out what they want to do with him, as whether it's tight end or defensive end, or maybe even as a 3-4, kind of stand up outside linebacker. There's a lot of ways they could go with him.
Is it racist to say basically OU's had two really good white defensive ends?
That's
the only comparisons you make.
Dan Cody and
Austin English. That's
they've
racist,
only really
isn't
had
it?
Not really. It's fact. They've only
white guy.
They've only had two white guys, haven't they? I can't.
But you don't compare every black guy that's a defensive end to every black defensive end that's played at OU.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
that is where you do get into the racism. Then that is.
Oh, so I can't be reverse racist. Whatever, Josh.
Why? Quit hating on the white man. So whatever. No, but yeah.
Let me tell you about Hillary's emails. I got you here.
No. Oh, wow. All right. I can't even respond to that. I'm just going to stay out of it so I don't have to ban Eddie. So
racism, Josh, is it bad?
This is, guys, I can say this for all three of us. We are an anti-racism podcast.
We are. We do not support Papa John's.
I will stand with that.
Actually, I thought that was pretty funny that Papa John's put out a statement with a middle finger emoji in it to the white nationalists.
At least somebody is these days. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, yeah, but this weekend, Josh, I'm sorry. Did you have something else you wanted to go over with?
No, I have nothing I want to go over with Eddie. Damn it.
So the rest of the recruiting weekend, it turned out to be just talk about that weekend, because you had kind of said it, and everybody kind of said what could they possibly put together, in this weekend, but it was just everybody started descending on Norman.
I'll just throw this out there before you, Josh, just the fact that I'm not much of a this crowd was better than this crowd, but I thought it was a pretty damn good atmosphere.
I did too. I mean, from the press box, I thought it was good.
Yeah,
really
I thought
good.
it was very good. And I didn't notice it until I went back and watched the game, was the fact that they played the Mayfield little get loud, be rowdy, hullabaloo bullshit thing that he said at the press conference. They played that before the first series of the game. I didn't even realize that. Like when the defense was coming out. But I thought it was a great atmosphere, and I thought that, I'm sure that's probably what you heard from a lot of people that were in attendance.
I'm sure Baker appreciates you calling his stuff hullabaloo bullshit.
I was fixing to say, Sam's not going to be the only quarterback not returning your calls.
I would tell Baker to his face.
But, okay, we'll keep Eddie from just burning all his relationship bridges.
But the recruiting weekend, Josh, it turned out to be a pretty good one.
I'll just slide into Kyler's DMs.
And talking about the guys that were really impressed. I know talking to the two the two elite California kids that were in Bryce Young, the 2020 quarterback from LA Cathedral, and his 2019 teammate Stephon Wright, the defensive lineman from Cathedral. They both just talked like couldn't believe the atmosphere. They'd never experienced anything like that. And Young kind of said, being from LA, there's nothing like that here. People, were out there early and were ready to go, and it was just, he said something like, I as a player, you would love to go somewhere and be that important and be that big of a deal as obviously Baker is and that kind of thing. So that resonates with a lot of guys, and I know people coming into that week, and we talked about it in the pod, Baker shouldn't have to call fans out like that. Like I kept getting fans saying, he wants us to be loud this week. He wants you to be loud every week. Like this isn't new. So this stuff resonates with guys. And I know talking to just one guy after another, atmosphere came up. Isaiah Spiller was like, it was just amazing. That was incredible. And this is a guy that his dad played at A&M. I mean, he's been around plenty of good atmospheres in his life going to A&M games for years.
And what?
Colts.
I wonder if they've gotten rid of. See, that's the bad thing. I don't know because I haven't been to a game at A&M now that they're not in the Big 12. But surely they told the girls to stop wearing overalls all the time. It was like a bad.
No,
look.
I don't think they have. I think the only thing that they don't do anymore is build bonfires.
Yeah, we're not doing that. Not a joke.
I'm not saying it's a joke. I'm serious.
Well, I mean, you have to look. Okay, so big-time recruit goes to Florida State, and there are, let's say, loose, morally casual girls in tight tops and cowgirl hats.
Didn't they shut down the fraternities there this last couple of weeks?
Yeah, at Florida State.
Somebody got
Did
killed?
they?
Yeah, I think I didn't really read a whole lot about it, but I think it had something to do with maybe some cocaine floating through the Greek Row and just a little exclusive partying.
I remember going by. I'm sorry to take us out on a tangent, Josh, but I remember going by their Greek Row and stuff. Like they have like the tiny houses. They're not residents.
I wanted to jump out of the car.
You do?
Oh,
you did
yeah.
when you saw it?
Yeah, it looked awesome.
But I mean, you don't live there. I mean, you just go to have like chapter meetings, I guess.
Yeah, and party.
But where do you go to party? The houses are tiny.
No, I don't think they're tiny. They have huge houses at Florida State. Because I've seen some videos before from like inside the. I don't even know what house it was, but
maybe those are like little satellite.
It was humongous. I think maybe those were now maybe the sorority houses are small.
The sorority, I think it was also
fraternity houses are humongous.
Florida State was the first place I ever saw girls wearing cut-off jean shorts that were so short the pockets hung down.
God, I love Florida State. They're called sluts.
Well, I mean, they had those Florida State girls. That's how Jen Sturger got her start in life. Now it's not going so well for her.
Well, I think saying now she stands up on her high horse about being respected.
Yeah, I know.
That's interesting. It's almost like you make the bed you lay in. So
even if you get those implants taken out, you're still a hooker.
Brett McKendry's still trying to.
Oh my God! Let's not. We can't go down that road.
Let's not go down that road.
We can't go down that road.
Okay,
I hate her so much, though.
We won't.
Put her in.
So
Tom
recruiting.
Anyway.
Yeah, recruiting.
Where were we? Oh, we've talked about kind of the atmosphere.
How big it was, the atmosphere, yeah.
Sure. The three official visitors that were there that weren't committed guys. You had Abdul Malik McLean from the Los Angeles area. Andrew Chatfield from Florida. Both those guys kind of edge rusher types. And Cam Wire, the offensive tackle, who's an LSU commitment, which I have kind of found out in the last 5 or 6 hours, and I know people are going to get mad that I talked about it on the pod and haven't put it on the board yet. It's just been a busy day. I don't think he had alerted LSU that he was going to take that visit. So I think there is some surprise on that front. I don't know what to make of that, because I think, first, he's a guy. I mean, those that don't know, Gonzalez is right down the road from Baton Rouge. I mean, it's very, very close. And when he committed, he called LSU his dream school, and I think he meant it. And it always felt like LSU was going to be really tough to beat. At the same time, there's not many schools that have more to offer an offensive lineman right now than Oklahoma does. I mean, and especially with Cam Wire, whose good and close friend and former teammate is Adrian Ely, who's currently a freshman tackle. So, I mean, there is a lot for Oklahoma to hit on with him, and he's kind of gone underground. Cam is usually very easy for me to get a hold of, and he's gone a little quiet lately, and to me that usually means something's cooking. Now, it may mean nothing, but it's just usually when something changes dramatically, you can kind of see why. With Malik McClain, I keep hyphenating it's Abdul Malik, last name McClain, and I keep wanting to make his last name McClain.
So he's
Malik
got two
McClain.
First names.
Yeah, he's
That's
got two
awesome.
first names. I keep screwing it up, so forgive me on that.
That's so Ricky Bobby.
Yes. I don't think he has a Crystal Gale shirt, but I will check on that. With McClain, everybody I talked to thought that visit went really, really well, kind of like Jeremiah Martin a few weeks ago with Texas Tech. I think there was some feeling that maybe something could happen in the next week. I get the impression that he's probably going to – not probably. There's a good chance he'll decommit from UCLA and then kind of come down to a decision of whether he wants to take some more trips or maybe commit to Oklahoma. I think there's some things he has to talk over with his family. Andrew Chatfield, a guy that I love from American Heritage in Florida, the thing I got from everybody is how much they liked him. I think everybody around Norman was just super impressed with him as a kid. But when I would get kind of into how did the visit go? I don't think anybody knows. There was very much it seemed like he liked it, but he didn't tell us anything. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. But I definitely got the feeling that he's probably not a guy I would count on being part of this class.
He's got two first names.
All right. What's interesting
I ran you out of that joke. Sorry.
About LSU is I'm sorry, but if you go to LSU, you're just going to be 8-4 every year forever.
Well, at some point, you have to realize that you can't get subtitles or a caption to go along with the coach.
I mean, Orgeron, he's going to recruit well. He's going to keep your talent stockpiled, but you're never going to win anything.
Not anything meaningful. I mean, you might win
They really are headed for just another Les Miles era.
Yeah,
it's just all okay, except not as good.
Yeah, I don't think they'll come anywhere close to the success that Les Miles had. I hope Les Miles gets back in the coaching game.
You guys are in the same room. I'm going to make sure this is an honest test. Don't look at your computers. Don't look at the rankings. If I made you tell me where LSU is in the Rivals rankings right now, give it a guess.
6, 7, somewhere around there.
I trying to just think a wild guess.
It must be awful.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. I'll say 14.
Is it
20?
20.
No.
So they're not
LSU
even recruiting.
20. Yeah, I think Carey, I was talking to our buddy at the LSU site, and there is, and he was talking about there's this reputation that Orgeron has as a recruiter, but when you look at it, what has Orgeron always had to sell? He's been at LSU selling defensive linemen, not that tough. Been at USC recruiting Southern California, not that tough. I never thought of it that way, and I won't claim that I had the idea because I definitely did not. But it's kind of interesting to think about that now that he's having to sell his own team and what a train wreck they look like at times. I mean, the heat's kind of come off of him, but he beat the crap out of Arkansas, who just fired their athletic director and is going to fire their head coach. Is that really worth getting excited over?
He's continually beating schools that they have not their shit together.
Mississippi State killed them? Or they killed Mississippi State? I can't even remember.
Who? LSU? They got killed by Mississippi State. They came back and beat Auburn the week after they lost to Troy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
that's the weird one. That's what's killing Auburn right now.
Yeah, that is a bizarre loss.
Not
as bad apparently as Iowa State, but
yeah, I mean, God forbid you lose to a decent Iowa State team, because that will completely screw you over, I guess, for the rest of the year.
Is there ever there needs to be within the committee a review committee, because clearly they can't learn that Iowa State's not as bad as we all thought they were at the time. And guys, we were all three guilty of that. I'm not saying that they should have known at the time that Iowa State was good.
But when you watch Iowa
the evidence
State,
says they're a pretty good football team.
When you watch Iowa State play TCU, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State, and it all goes down to the wire, they win 2 of those 3. They were one score away. And an extra point, 2-point conversion, whatever. But one stop away, whatever you want to call it, from being the only team that had wins over Oklahoma, TCU, and Oklahoma State.
They were about to be the best story, one of the best stories in college football. I mean, if they win, they're in the Big 12 championship game. They'd be one of the best stories in college football.
And compared to losing to Syracuse, who was 4-6, you're trash.
And guys, even forget the Oklahoma State game. How many teams in the country could beat Oklahoma and TCU this year?
Maybe none.
4 or 5? I mean, maybe. Alabama, Clemson. I mean, you're talking the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not getting into whether they would or wouldn't. I'm just saying is capable. And it's not long. I mean, those are 2 really good football teams.
I feel like we should always remind people, we are Soonerscoop.com. This is the Unofficial 40. We are a subscription-based website, and there's always tons more information. I mean, we can throw together an hour and a half, 2-hour podcast like it's nothing. Like, there is so much more information out there that we have on the website, especially on the Crimson Corner, our member message board, that we want you guys to be a part of it. This podcast, I can't tell you guys how much we appreciate you guys listening, telling your friends about it. It's kind of become one of those things, like we hear when we're out on the street, we hear from you guys that listen to the podcast, and we always love that. But it's gotten so bonkers. I mean, it's massive, and you are going to start hearing some of those advertisements. I know a lot of people are like, you should sell advertising. It's like, well, yeah, we plan on doing that. So I can't tell you what it's going to be, but we're going to be hawking some stuff here pretty soon. We've got... because our numbers are so big, we've got representation from a national ad agency, which is very exciting news. So it should be good. By the way, back to recruiting for a second. So check us out, Soonerscoop.com. If you like the podcast, go sign up. That's all I can tell you. We're not asking for handouts. We give you pretty good stuff.
Go sign up, or you'll basically be a loser.
Exactly. You won't be as hip on... what's going on with OU as your friends. All right, back to recruiting. Josh, there was a announcement that was pushed back, an announcement that many thought could end up with OU having another commitment. What can you tell us about this situation?
Well, you know what I can tell you, and I think everyone's going to get real excited. I can tell you what one of the googly eyes was now. Everybody out there listening, sit down, take a minute. Ruben Unofficial was one of the googly eyes. Let me just clear that up for anyone who wasn't 100% sure.
He's the offensive lineman out of IMG Academy.
If you are a member of our board and you were not aware that he was one of the googly eyes, I'm going to tell me, and I'm going to give you a week away from the board, because you're not doing it right, and we got to talk about that. But to those listening, 4-star offensive tackle, Rivals 100 guy from IMG in Florida. Unofficial was a guy he's been leaning heavily to Oklahoma for months. I mean, and it seemed a foregone conclusion, and it was always strange to me because a guy at IMG, huge talent, all the stuff that you seem to like, and I would talk to people that are more familiar, maybe covered IMG more frequently, or at least just lived closer to IMG. And when I would talk to them, it just was kind of a, this school doesn't think he's that good. This school's not that high on him. They're kind of passing on him. And I was like, what am I missing here? Because everything else looked right. And I would talk to my sources at Oklahoma. there was never any feel that was happening. And even 2 weeks ago when he took his official visit to for the Texas Tech weekend, it all looked right. And at some point in the last 4 to 5 days, something changed. And I'm not trying to tease anybody. I don't know what it is yet. Like I'm just going to be honest about that. But at the same time, I have a picture of it. Like I have some ideas of what it could be. I don't want to speculate because Ruben's a good kid and I'm not looking to run him through the mud or anything like that. I don't know, so I don't want to take guesses and be wrong and make him look bad. That's not what I want to do. But when I talk to people, it's not a grades thing. He's been injured his senior year. I'm told that's not the problem. So you can check some things off of this is not what it is. But he has delayed his decision. From what I have been told, and I've already talked about this on the board for a few days now, Oklahoma will not be part of his recruitment going forward. I don't know why. Like that, the why is the only thing I cannot tell you. But from everything I have gathered, OU is going to move in a different direction. Now, that may be Cam Wire, who we talked about earlier. That may be the possibility of moving some guys around, doing some different things, maybe taking a JUCO guy. We're going to talk about it some in the scoop. This is something I plan to cover at some length, so I don't want to give away everything. But there are some ways Oklahoma can go without even really being that crazy. I think there are some ideas about their current commitments that could move and shift a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. And also in the scoop, and this is a flat-out tease, I expect some numbers changes to start happening as far as what Oklahoma's commitment list may look like. So just kind of Friday morning, Thursday night, whenever I manage to get that out, I think you'll see some interesting stuff that maybe we haven't covered at all before.
Let me ask you, I think the only natural question when you hear about the Ruben Unije and specifically his connection where he goes to school right now, how does that affect OU with a number of the IMG guys?
You're right, and I should have covered that. Obviously, Oklahoma's still in play with Ayodele Adoye, the linebacker, the Rivals 250 guy that also visited the Texas Tech weekend. Also, obviously TJ Pledger, everything's good there with OU, the commitment. And Brendan Radley-Hiles, who was going to visit Clemson this weekend, which to me is the last real hurdle for Oklahoma. I think if he comes out of that and Clemson hasn't either secured his commitment or whatever, then I think Oklahoma is looking pretty good for his decision that's supposed to be announced at the Army game. From what I can gather at IMG, I don't know that Oklahoma came to this decision completely independently. I don't want to say too much beyond that, but I definitely don't think Oklahoma has hurt themselves with the coaching staff or the support, any of the players. I think most of the principals in this situation, and from what I can gather, Ruben included in that, understands why this has happened. So I don't think there's any sore feelings. I think everybody kind of understands, excuse me, can kind of understand why this happened. But I don't foresee this being something that reflects negatively on Oklahoma.
Interesting. All right, boys, we've gone on for a while, and I'm glad to get another podcast out there. I will say this, next week, Thanksgiving is coming up. There's a pretty good chance we'll up the podcast schedule a day just because of schedules. Especially, I know I've got to go down to Dallas on Wednesday. Eddie's got some family stuff, too. So
going to Houston.
Are you going to Houston?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll be back Friday.
I think we're going to have kind of a little bit of an early podcast next week, so just programming note for you moving forward. Josh, is Lainey excited about Thanksgiving?
She is more excited about Christmas. We are, Carey,
are the lights up or is a tree
No,
up?
they will be going up here the next few days. We are going to start getting, because normally it wouldn't probably happen. I have kind of worn Tiffany down on this because I am one of those people that as soon as Halloween's over, I just want to go to Christmas. Like I'm like, Thanksgiving's fine. Thanksgiving's a meal. I don't have any other use for it. So I'm ready for Christmas. And with the baby coming, we've got enough stuff going on right now that I really don't need to have to wait on that for a certain timeline. Just whenever we can start putting stuff up, we'll start putting stuff up. So the funny thing is the day after Halloween, I said, Lainey, it's almost Christmas time. We're ready. And she associates that with, I don't know if I've even said, Layla is going to be is girl number 2.
Oh, okay,
so
the name, huh?
I don't know that I was giving the name out. So Layla will be number 2. And Layla, that's what Lainey has known all along, that Christmas meant Layla would be here. So she goes, so I get to meet my sister today. And we're like, well, no, baby. And she was so crestfallen by just Christmas. Like we'd taken all the joy out of Christmas. So I've been trying to get her back in the mood for a while now. But yeah, she likes Halloween a lot. She really dug that. And obviously Christmas, every kid. She already has her list for Santa. She's ready to roll.
Good to know. By the way, Eddie, tell your family to enjoy this Thanksgiving, because next week we're spending it in Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
West Virginia is the post-Thanksgiving game.
And that's a Friday game, right? It's the Friday after Thanksgiving.
I think it might be. We'll be at Boston Market celebrating Thanksgiving.
We can do better than that. We can do better than Boston Market.
Dude, Boston Market's good.
I know, but we can, for Thanksgiving, I want to go eat with like Ben Roethlisberger or Bill Cowher, or just go to Dana's house.
Maybe they'll draft like Orlando Brown or something. And then he can hook us up.
Yeah, there we go. Do that.
All right, so that's going to do it for this episode of the Unofficial 40. There may be some other exciting news. I set up a voicemail system the other day.
Ooh.
We may keep checking Twitter, because I'm thinking that maybe we should get post-game reaction and start making that a part of the podcast, or even like halftime reaction. That might be kind of cool.
I have some breaking news.
Really?
Well, not really truly breaking, but just got a text from a buddy, or a DM from a buddy. He works for the National Weather Center. Right now, if they were to forecast the weather for in 2 weeks for the West Virginia game, 9.8 inches of snow in Norman. Something to just watch out for.
I don't like you, Eddie.
I'm going to project, though. That's good for Oklahoma. That's a game Oklahoma can win.
Yeah, I think having 9.8 inches of snow with Will Greer involved, probably not bad.
Probably try to snort all of it.
All right, you can't finish the show any better than that, folks. We're going to get out of here. Thanks to Josh McQuistion. Thanks to the always awful Eddie Radosevich. I am Carey Murdoch. You've been listening to the Unofficial 40, and we'll see you guys back on the site, Soonerscoop.com. And we'll be back again next week, a day early, as we hope you guys enjoy the holidays. We'll tell you that again next week. So thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Podcasts from Soonerscoop.com.